Yo! Whoa, 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 whoa! What episode are we on? I've forgotten already. 64. Never mind, I remembered.
It's a good way to get people to tune in. Just scream uncontrollably at the beginning of the episode.
Welcome to episode 64.
Yo, who do we get the body double as reinforced this week?
Who's that? Who's reinforced?
You look like you took the good cop bad cop skit from Watchpoint way too far.
Are you trying to grow that out? Or like, what's the deal?
I'm from Fiverr. I don't know. I'm just on this podcast to replace someone. Yeah.
We just hired you to just replace our friend.
All right, welcome.
Sorry, go on.
I was going to say welcome to Plat Chat Overwatch, episode 64, presented by Team Over. And now you can continue to speak.
I just wanted to grow it out for like November, you know, it's a good cause for charity, whatever.
That's the entire month's worth of growth.
That's the entire month.
No, I actually did shave it on the 7th of November because I had like muscle memory when it came to shaving. So I started shaving, right? And then I just naturally shaved off like half of my mustache. And I was like, well, you know.
So this is just left the remains.
This is a month.
But today of recording is the 7th of December, so that's a full month's growth.
I mean,
that's as bad as me.
Oh, okay. Well, you know, we don't have to make fun of it already. I'm trying.
You never want to be like. There are some things where you'd be okay being compared to Josh. Hair growth would not be one that you should be okay with. That's one thing that you would not want to have in common.
There's still time.
With Sideshow.
Yeah. There's still time. We're all young.
Yeah. I mean, this doesn't take that long to grow on me. Like,
but you're like 50 years old. You've had a full beard since you were like 3. I feel like you're.
What's everyone been up to recently?
You're actually one of the dwarves from The Hobbit.
So I've been playing WoW. I've been playing some Overwatch. And then also I played a Clash tournament this weekend with Brennon Hook.
Oh, we'll talk about
what is a Clash tournament?
So it's like you play through the game. No. It's like League of Legends. Just like sign up, saying you play through the game. Like they matches you on skill. The first day we make it to the finals, and we.
Listen.
This is the finals of bad players, right? It matches you based on your rank in game.
Kind of
other gold players.
Or
silver.
Gold players.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Okay, but I will say this, like, day one, what Matt's going to say is like, we made it to the finals, we lost in the finals. Okay, cool. Yep. We lost then. Day two, I wanted to come in fully prepared. I mean, I'm talking the full Monty. I came into it and I was like, right, listen, I woke up, I did my stretches, I ate my breakfast, I went for a run, I drank lots of water. I was like, I'm ready for this fucking tournament. I watched a bit of Valorant on the side, I'm not going to lie. Took a little bit of a me time, you know, watched a little bit of Valorant on the side. But the point remains, I'm out here preparing and I'm like, okay, what is the one thing I need to prepare more on? I need to expand my champion pool. So the one way to do that is by playing the game, for one. But I decided, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go for a new method, which is essentially watching videos. Now, it was all hunky-dory. Okay. What do you know? I'd done all the prep work. I'd done the stretching, done the exercise, drank the water, ate the food. What's the other thing you need to watch videos?
Internet?
Stable internet. Yeah.
Oh.
Stable internet connection.
Did something happen?
And what do you know? 11 a.m. on the dot. Boom. Lights go down. Internet goes down. The world goes down. What's happening? Oh. Check my phone. Oh. 100% battery. Not bad. Ooh. What's that in the corner? Hold up.
What is it?
Is that 5G bars? 5 bars? 5G? Ooh! Let's go, team! Let's go! Let's go, baby! You already know. Yeah, Jack, shut that door real quick. Shut that door. Jack's going to get his groceries. The neighbors can hear me screaming. Shut that door, Jack. Get out of here. Get out of here, Jack. That's right, baby, because we got T-Mobile 5G in this house with 5G coverage in all 50 states. T-Mobile is America's largest 5G network, and even better, no other 5G signal goes farther to bring you closer to the Overwatch League and connected to the game. So rank up and take your wireless game to the next level with T-Mobile, and visit T-Mobile.com today. So yeah, I plugged in the T-Mobile, baby. The power came back online, tethered up my phone, bish bash bosh, started looking up the YouTube videos, and I went 1 in 16 across all of our Clash games and lost us the game.
Okay, so that's the part I was waiting for him to get to. The first game, he goes 1 in 9, and we're like, all right. Like let's try cut down.
No, don't even. Don't even talk like you were giving me advice. Everyone was silent. So I was like, oh yeah. How do I fix this? How do I fix this? Oh, God, no.
The second game, he selected Malphite, which we've never seen Bren ever play Malphite. He claimed these are some of the videos he watched.
Oh, no, don't pull this up.
0-7 and 5 on Malphite for a whopping 1 in 16 performance on the day. We won the third game, though, because the team forfeited, so we didn't have an opportunity to keep going. So, mind you, we lost that second game, and our mid laner had 53,000 damage. Oh my God. Hello?
Hello. Bye.
I think bye.
Oh, I'm back.
Oh. Hey, there's
the lights went out again.
Yeah, that was weird. Luckily, we're on the T-Mobile tethering, so we can still stay in contact.
Of course.
That's a good point.
So what did you get for doing all these Clash thingies?
Well, I mean, considering we got
like sprays and stuff,
yeah, I mean, considering we got last pretty much the second day, we didn't get much. The first day we got a bunch of stuff because we got second. But
when you first said this, I was like, oh, they're doing like some Twitch rivals thing. It's gonna be broadcast or whatever. No, but there was actually this group organization like a week ahead to just play clashes in game. Against
it's a pretty cool system. They should add something like it to Overwatch, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it is an amazing system. It looks like it would be a fantastic addition to any game.
Yeah. Let's start this episode off then.
Yeah.
You ready?
Let's go.
Let's start with the fucking Nostradamus sat here in the corner of our screens here predicting Glister to the San Francisco Shock.
Psychic Sideshow is what I'd like to be called from now on, because
how did you do this?
I had no inside info. I had no idea. I just figured that Glister is the kind of player that I expect the San Francisco Shock to pick up, because he's a big name, but I feel like he's cheaper than he should be this season, because he had a year where he just kind of got wasted in London. Like, he was obviously the best player in London, but he just kind of got wasted. So he's like a pretty big name that has a lot of potential, but hasn't really made it. I feel like Krusty would turn him into an absolute literal beast. So I was like, yeah, why not? And also, the Shock love just hogging DPS players, don't they?
Yeah.
I mean, how many have they got now?
They have
17
now
on their roster.
They have 5 DPS.
Right.
You know, I mean, that's a lot of crossover, because it's Nero, Glister, Tayu, and then you have Striker and Ants, and it's a lot of crossover between all those 5 people. Like, how are they going to manage that?
Like their starters most likely will be like what, Ants and Striker, right? Like if the meta is like kind of the same.
If it's double hit scan,
if it's double hit scan. Like if any other team was starting Nero and Glister, you'd be like, oh my God, that team is nuts. That's a sick DPS lineup, and that's their backup.
Yeah, well, we don't know that. I mean, Shock are a team that you never know what they're going to be playing. There's times when we think they're going to be playing Rascal a lot of the time, and they just didn't, you know?
Well, like when Ants was playing May and stuff like that.
Yeah, it also gives them some highly motivated players who are extremely talented to keep pushing Ants and Striker to get better. I think that's super important to have those players on the bench, where I know in Glister's picture there, you know, in the announcement, they had the Widow and Ashe, but he can play definitely way more than that. You know, Nero obviously extremely flexible as well. So this gives them even more options, right? I think
it gives them infinity options. There's nothing that the Shock wouldn't be able to run at this point. I just don't see, I can't think of a single hero that they wouldn't be able to play, or a hero combination they wouldn't be able to play.
And I also think you see with this, you know, with players going to San Francisco, that you're like, well, you know, Nero probably could have gotten like a ton of money elsewhere, or even Glister, right? players want to play for a team that is winning, but also for an organization and coaches they know will use them in the best capabilities, right? Where they won't go somewhere and have their value or career like kind of tanked by maybe like coaches or an org that won't use them properly. Where you can imagine some of these players will be like, yo, look, I'll go to San Francisco for a year, I'll pop off, like we most likely will win or get close to winning. I'll be used in moments where I'll look great. And then if you want to go somewhere else, like you can, right?
Yeah. It's almost like Shock is like a money laundering system for people's careers. I know that sounds insane, right? But stick with me here. I don't mean that they're laundering money.
Don't clip that.
No. What I mean is they take in the people who might be on like a downward spiral, not a downward spiral, but people who are undervalued. They're taking players that are not quite washed up, but they are gonna get underrated. People like Nero, who've had a season with a Chinese team, and the Overwatch League teams tend to try and pick up rookie talent. So if you are not on an elite level team, but you're good, they don't tend to give you as many chances. But the Shock takes those in for cheap and then washes them around and turns them into really, really strong players again and redeems their value all the way back up to the top where it should be. Like what they did with Rascal. Like Rascal was on his way out of the Overwatch League. Even though he was a really talented player, no one was willing to take a risk when you have so many good rookie talents available. The same would reasonably apply to people like Neptuno. Sorry, why am I even saying Neptuno? I mean, it would have applied to him, but the Shock didn't pick him up. Nero. I think there are a few teams that would have taken a risk on Nero this season, but in order to get your value right up to the peak again, you sign with the Shock.
Yeah, and I think a great example actually there is Nevix. And I hate to be the guy that always brings up Nevix, but in his case, right, he did play for the San Francisco Shock. Realistically, how many other teams in the Overwatch League does Nevix get a chance on if he does not play for the San Francisco Shock? I mean, what? He played like a match or two like that season when Triobin picked up the Sigma from him and whatever, but then Nevix got signed to the Toronto Defiant. Like, how many other teams would have just taken a chance on Nevix had he not been on that Shock roster, even if it didn't get any play time? Because his reputation increased by just being on the bench on that Shock roster.
Yeah, I mean, partly because you were just the prime seller of Nevix.
True,
stock.
Nevix but so were the Shock as well. Like, they sold him as an equity.
I bought into the hype
Nevix, pick him up. He's great. Yeah.
I mean, I think as players look around the league and they play for certain teams in certain situations, you're kind of like, well, do I want to go to another uncertainty or a building project, right? Do I want to go somewhere more stable, win, play in the biggest moments? And then, like Josh said, it kind of rebuilds your value for next year and beyond, right? So I think it makes sense. It's also what you see in traditional sports, right? Where a lot of teams that can contend can get players to come for less money to try and win, but then also contribute to a winning team, raise their value, and then go to another team that's trying to win, right? Or on the cusp. So makes total sense.
It'll be interesting to see if Tayu gets signed to another team, because like he is, I would say, the fifth DPS on this lineup. Like, I'd pick Nero and Glister on most heroes over Tayu, but still he's been on this roster for like, half a year now. It was pretty much like half the season on San Francisco Shock, maybe less. And now, is any other team gonna take a chance on him just because he was on the Shock roster and learned?
I think he's still on the Shock roster.
Yeah, he is.
Right? But I remember
saying like at the end of 2021.
Oh yeah. Well, I remember. I think it was last year in free agency. There were a ton of talk about Tayo. Teams like trying him out and thought he was really good, wanted to potentially acquire him. Just didn't work out at that time. So I still think, some of that interest would still be there.
I'll say this. I wouldn't be surprised if they kept onto him, because I think they are probably trying to learn from some of the mistakes of last year, if that makes sense, regarding like just the burnout, I guess, from like training and working and playing in that team environment in a COVID world. Does that make sense? Like, with the amount of players that complained or like were saying that they were heavily affected by the burnout and the lack of motivation from like the entire situation of how this year went down. Having a variety of DPS players, I don't think is a bad thing. Like, it's one of those roles that you want flexibility on for one, because it's kind of like one of the most changing roles within the metas, I would say. Like, if hero pools came back in, generally speaking, tanks stay consistent, but DPS will be swapping out on a regular basis. So you've got that to cover your back, but also if anybody is affected by, maybe not feeling it this game, maybe they need a couple of weeks off, which does happen, you've got suitable replacements,
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's pretty reasonable. I mean, it's an embarrassment of riches. The Shock have just an unbelievable roster, an outrageous roster. Yeah. And Andy Miller was tweeting about how, actually, this started because Avast was tweeting about it too. But he was saying that they didn't really have to pay top dollar for it either. Kind of what Matt was talking about, that people want to play for the San Francisco Shock. And I think this is also a great point from Avast as well. People are incentivized to play an OWL because if you are on the best team, you're perceived to be a great player. It's not just because you are a good player, but it's difficult to look good if you lose. And it's difficult to stay at the top level if you lose because you're not constantly learning and developing and keeping up. So a lot of teams, when they're rebuilding an OWL, which is not similar to any other esport that I've seen, would rather take a punt on rookie upcoming players than on proven talent. And Andy Miller replied here and just said that they weren't anywhere near the high bidder for any of the players that they signed in this offseason.
But and at some point though, like as a player, I mean, I think in any kind of field, like the money becomes like insignificant after a while, right? In terms of like, if the money is between the Shock and another team is not like, a huge gap, but it's better for your long-term career, right? Like, I think a lot of these players will pick like a team like the Shock because it's exactly like what Avast was even talking about there, where let's say you don't even play that much. Another team will be like, well, Krusty and the Shock really liked him and brought him in. He has to be pretty good, right? I mean, like Nevix. Yeah, like Nevix. Like, oh well, they kept him on for a while. He's got to be somewhat skilled, right? The fact that they're willing to kind of keep him, even a player like Tayo, who we haven't seen a ton from. It's like, well, hey, they wanted to add him mid-season. Like Krusty said all these great things about him. Like they were molding him on the roster. Like, even if he doesn't play a ton, he still has to be pretty good, right? For them to make that type of acquisition mid-year.
Right, that's the logic, yeah.
Right? So I definitely see the logic, which helps you kind of keep the staying power in the Overwatch League.
Yeah, and for the Shock, they're just able to keep up. They keep the arsenal available for them to punch at the highest possible level. Mixed metaphors there completely. But they have all the tools they need to be able to keep winning because they have the reputation of being the winning team. So it's a cycle of excellence that's going to perpetuate itself to Shock keeping this dynasty alive potentially throughout 2021. They look like the favorites heading into next year already.
Yeah. Which is something we weren't exactly sure, right? Because they had a ton of outstanding free agents. We weren't sure how they would kind of add to the roster. It looked like for a while, like players like Nero and Glister and whatnot were headed elsewhere. We weren't sure what was going to happen when Moth left, right? But
whether Super or Violet would leave as well, but the Shock are looking better than ever.
I mean, could you make an argument this is their strongest roster?
Yeah.
You definitely could. I think it depends on what happens with FD God, to be honest, because even though FD God's mega talented, if you lose that je ne sais quoi from Moth, the leadership, the calm head, the ability to keep the rest of the team supported at the best of times, his just solid gameplay. If you lose that and it does make a difference to the Shock, then maybe they slip a little, but I can't really see it.
You could also probably snapshot some version with Sinatra in it and make a good case, I think.
Sure.
But for the most part, you look at this roster and it's just like overwhelmingly stacked. Like, it's absurd. Like, it really is. Yeah, when you guys mentioned Dynasty, like, it really could go on for like another 3 years.
Let's talk about a team that's not so stacked, or at least they're trying to get there. The Houston Outlaws. They are certainly trying to get there. I actually love these pickups. So they picked up PIGGY and JJANGGU. I don't know how to pronounce his name. JJANGGU, I think, and KSF as well. So these are all fantastic additions. PIGGY, and I think is JJANGGU as well from Talon. What the heck?
Yeah, they are.
And my phone just decided to break legs and walk away. So I love these pickups because the biggest question on our minds was the tank line for Houston. Honestly, I think the previous episode that we were talking about them, we were wondering like, okay, what are they doing? It's such a core functioning part of any team, and there weren't really a lot of places left, or like essentially, if you were to look within the Overwatch League, you weren't going to find many positions. And it was at that point, time to start looking out towards contenders. And this makes a hell of a lot of sense. Super came on our podcast when he did that episode. He said that of all the teams they scrimmed when they were in Korea, in terms of contenders teams, Talon Esports was the ones that they impressed the most, probably.
Yeah, true.
So these are all good pickups. The Minecraft DPS duo has arrived. Did KSF play Minecraft?
Maybe they are now.
Wait, who?
I'm guessing so, yeah.
KSF Dante, yeah.
Wait, KSF started from Minecraft?
No, I don't think so.
Well,
I mean, Dante did,
but then.
Maybe
they're playing Minecraft currently. I
Just
mean,
like Dante, he was also a former pro Minecraft PvPer going under the name Kyle Smiles.
Wait,
he was
really?
prolific for his skills in pot PvP.
I did not know that at all.
That is very interesting. Okay.
Dude, Minecraft requires
back.
some heavy skills. I'm not kidding. Like, I've been getting into the Minecraft speedrunning aspect a lot recently. Kurt has as well. So he's going to be throwing up some clips probably of his own stream, I hope. He's not. He just said, no, he's not. It requires a hell of a lot of skill. But anyway, back onto the track of Houston. These pickups are... God, yeah. It was.
You really like where Houston's going.
I think this is really quite good. It's a bit risky. Don't get me wrong. It's a bit risky, but I like the direction that they're going in. I find this way better than a lot of the other mid-table teams.
So what does their roster look like currently? PIGGY, JJANGGU, KSF, Dante, Happy. Have they announced the supports?
Crimso is re-signed.
And Boink.
So they probably...
Boink got re-signed?
I think he did.
Boink, I think, is just still on the roster. I'm not sure if they've made any type of announcement of like whether he's gonna...
I thought I saw a meme tweet.
Played?
Isn't he more of a coach?
Boink last played in August 2019. So, I mean, he can't be their full player. If they've got him signed to a player like coach contract or something, fair enough. But I just simply don't believe that Boink
this gives them
actually going to be there.
This gives them 4 DPS. So Hydration, KSF, Dante, and Happy. Crimso, who I think was pretty good. We talked a little bit about Crimso last week, I think, where you mentioned Josh, you thought he was quite good. And then if this tank line works out from contenders, like, you're a main support away from, I think you're in that same realm we were talking about, like the Toronto Defiant, right? Like in your 6 through...
see, there's where I'm not totally sure, because Toronto and Florida, I mean, actually, we don't know what the hell's happening with Florida. Yeah. By the way, Florida is absolutely my my Nostradamus pick for the team that's going to fuck us over in this Plat Chat too. They're like, I feel like they're teasing so much shit on Twitter. They're definitely going to announce something after we finish going live. Anyway, the Toronto and Florida and those kind of teams where you've got like the Gladiators that you could argue are somewhat in a similar tier. I feel better about all of those teams than I do about Houston. I think Houston have taken riskier bets on their tank line. I think the tank line could pay off, but I don't think we've seen enough of them playing enough metas at an elite level. Like some metas, they looked really good. Like the most recent ones where PIGGY was on Zarya, for example, they looked coordinated. They looked like a great idea. I want to see them across more different metas to really know whether that's a solid tank line that can like line up against the best. That is my biggest issue, actually. I was going to say other stuff, but that is really my biggest issue.
Would you say they're in the lower half of that kind of grouping of teams, like the Florida, Torontos, or are they not even in there?
I'm not even sure whether it's lower half. It's just more risky.
Right.
Compared to like a Toronto, which has the majority core from old Philadelphia, and adding in some really proven contenders talent that we've seen perform at the elite level on whatever heroes they actually need to play. And like Gladiators, who've got a bunch of really well-known elite talent like Shu and Moth and Birdring and Kevster. And, I feel rock solid about that team. And I feel optimistic about Toronto being able to compete at the same level. Houston, I'm a little more like, I don't know how much you're really going to get out of KSF in a really well-structured team. I'm not sure where his ceiling is. I'm not sure where the ceiling for JJANGGU and PIGGY are.
Yeah.
It's a bit more up in the air, I feel.
I respect that they come from Talon Esports, but I personally need to watch more footage and actually like review their gameplay before I can form like a great opinion. I tried to read up when they got announced on some stuff, and it seems like some people have some questions about how good they actually are. But I definitely need to go back and watch more footage. But even looking at the damaged lineup, like Dante, Hydration, Happy, KSF, Happy immediately stands out like as a star player out of these 4 players. But even then, like Dante, yeah, he's really good, and he was the main carry, I would say, this past season. Hydration now switching from tank back to DPS, presumably, and then KSF to aid. Like, KSF is not going to come into this lineup and be like this fantastic damage player. I think he filled a pretty niche role on the LA Valiant, and he did it well when you couldn't keep playing Shax and KSP, and you had to get some projectile in there. I think KSF can fill that role, but for the most part, I think that some of these players have to punch above their weight if you want good results this next year. So I'm with Sideshow on this one. I want to see more from Piggy and JJANGGU before I form like a proper opinion on them. But for the most part, I can't feel super confident about this team moving into next year.
I disagree with you, Josh.
Yeah.
And I think your point of view has been tainted from teams not getting the most out of their rookie players. And I think those teams just were not setting any players up to succeed, let alone rookie players. I think when I think of like rookie talent that was failed last year coming into it, I mean, Hawk was one of them. I think our expectations for Hawk were pretty high.
Oh, yeah.
And Gator. I mean, the Hawk and Gator tank line was like a really top-level contenders tank line that didn't make any moves within the league particularly.
So that's what I'm thinking of when I think of contenders talent that's gone wrong. The Vancouver Titans I'm willing to just leave as an outlier because of that entire situation is just this whole thing
sure
that existed. But generally speaking, when rookie talent comes into the league, they tend to perform and sometimes like exceed this talent that was remaining. I think in most cases that this comes up.
Yeah, that is I would agree with that general rule.
And I think them coming into the Houston Outlaws and how much faith I just have in general with just JJANGGU and Harsha as like the kind of guys leading the charge of Cool Matt as the GM. I feel like this team is on the right path. And out of all the teams to be taking risks on rookie talent, that's one of those teams that I think will be able to get the most out of them. Even if they're not in a different meta, I still, for that reason, I do still pin them above teams like Toronto. Definitely above Atlanta. Yes, above Toronto, above Atlanta.
Yeah, Toronto has skills.
Atlanta, I would agree, but Toronto is...
Yeah, I don't know about Toronto. I think
who does Toronto have currently?
I was with you till Toronto, and then I was like...
Sadu, Hisu,
I do think you bring up a great point, though, about trusting in JJANGGU to get the most out of rookie talent. I think if JJANGGU can get more out of Piggy and JJANGGU than we've already seen from them, and they already look pretty solid... then this team could absolutely be good. Especially because getting more out of KSF would be great.
Yeah, and Harsha did tweet, I think. There was either Piggy or JJANGGU who were like, oh yeah, they performed like extremely well in trials as well.
I believe that was JJANGGU. I think he tweeted about JJANGGU.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you trust the coaching staff, which I think we all kind of do here, especially with JJANGGU, you know, that actually adds some... credence to the roster overall, so that's a good sign.
You just feel way better about where the organization is going as a whole, and even into the future, right? With somebody like Cool Matt, who's like a player, leading the charges, like a GM knows exactly what to look for. JJANGGU, Harsha, like you mentioned, Bren. I think with a lot of the additions this season, like you can see that the Outlaws org is like kind of on the rise, right? Where they'll get this thing right soon.
I do agree. It's also. I think, did we even talk about this last week where I said it's kind of unfortunate that they're making all the right moves, but they might still look disappointing next season just because
everybody else is leveling up.
Yeah, everyone else is looking, not everyone else, but a lot of other teams are looking ridiculous. But even when I'm like constructing rough power rankings in my head right now in the off season, I've got Houston about in the middle of North America. At the same time, though, there's also 15 teams in North America in theory, and we don't know whether all of those are actually going to be playing in NA. So if some of the bottom level teams end up playing elsewhere, then maybe they look a little lower than middle of the pack, but it's pretty solid.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
It would be unfortunate if they falter just because of how good the competition will be, just because I think this is actually a really strong roster.
They've leveled. I mean, the immediate comparison that everyone's always going to make is to the sister Texas team, right? It's the Dallas Fuel.
An unfair comparison in this particular
of course
season,
it's unfair, but I'm telling it now. Like, that's what people are going to be making a comparison to. I mean, they've just spent the last 3 years trying to manufacture the rivalry, so of course you're going to fucking keep it going. You know, you've got this ball rolling, you have to deal with it now.
I would say a more reasonable. Yeah, I would say a more reasonable comparison actually for Houston next season is between Florida and Valiant. I think those are the teams you're really measuring them against, because those are teams that did better than expected last year, and Houston's coming in this year trying to do the same kind of stuff, where they take a couple of their players that are the same, and they're building mostly rookie talent around them, though they do have, you know, like Happy that they've thrown in, and KSF for maybe a little bit more of a veteran presence.
And I mean, there's 2 rookies.
Yeah, but I'm also assuming that their main support is going to be a rookie as well at this point.
True. Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
That's an assumption from me, but I mean, there's no way it's going to be like Boink and who else even.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be Boink either.
I mean, I don't think it's going to be Slime. That would be ridiculous if it was, but I don't think it is. Yeah, I mean, I don't think so, but could be.
Anyway.
If you get a good main support to pair with Crimso, that could actually be a good support line, because I put some respect in Crimso's name.
I'd like to see them get a playmaking main support as well. I feel like Crimso is a very solid flex support kind of person, but if you have someone in the backline that can actually make plays as well, like I don't think they need a Moth. I think they need an FD god, you know, in order to partner alongside Crimso.
Yeah, that's fair.
The LA Gladiators picked up Skewed, didn't they?
Yep.
Gone for these little maneuvers being made. Big money moves, some would say.
It's another flex support, right?
Yeah, another flex support. Someone that I don't know very much about at all.
What does the Gladiators roster look like at the moment?
The support line is Shoe, Moth, and Skewed.
Yep. And then you have Birdring, Kebster, Mirror. Do they have one more? And then you have
Space and Muse is your tank line.
Muse, yeah.
Or Moose.
No, no, it's not. We got fucking hard baited. Oh, by the way, did you guys not see this? Did you not see DP just pissing himself laughing because we got hard baited by that?
Hard baited by what?
Because Bishu tweeted that the guy's name was pronounced Moose. And
I never pronounced it Moose.
No. We originally pronounced it Muse, right? And then Halo of Thoughts, for some reason, put out a really weird tweet where I couldn't even understand what he was saying, but he said, is it pronounced Muse or is it pronounced Muse? Like the band?
Lied to us.
I don't fucking know anyway. I don't know what Halo was trying to distinguish between, but he was confused by our pronunciation. And then Bishu responded to Halo of Thoughts saying, actually, the Korean pronunciation is Moose. And then we all we came into last week's episode saying, wow, Bishu said it was pronounced Moose. That's really weird, isn't it? But I guess we'll call him Moose. And so we started talking about him, calling him Moose, and DP in the meantime sat there having signed this guy pissing himself. He's rolling around on the floor fucking laughing at us, just thinking that his name's Moose.
We made him even more famous, calling him
I
Moose.
don't remember that.
Why don't we change his name?
It should be Moose. It's so Moose. It's like 2.0
I don't remember calling him Moose.
Cow meme.
I don't know whether you did call him Moose, but I remember me calling him Moose. I definitely fell for this bait from Bishu. I fucking did.
It was Moose. Right then, I thought it was Moose.
There are so many Korean players who pronounce their names differently to how an English-speaking player would pronounce their names. Not just because of Korean pronunciations, but like, for example, fucking, what's his name?
Janus is a classic example.
Iris, who
spelled his name wrong.
It was an L. He spelled his name wrong, so everyone's been calling him Lyris or what does ZP call him? LR15 for some reason.
LR15.
LR15 above.
He just wanted his name to be Iris, but he didn't realize it was a capital I. He thought it was an L. So he thought the word Iris was spelled LRIS. And then it's just a travesty, isn't it? So
Janus was the classic example, because the one J in Korean is like a soft J. 2 J's is hard, so like Jonak. JJANGGU, like it is, right, like that. But one is like Janus, like almost Scandinavian, I think. So I think he always wanted his name pronounced Giannis. Yeah, look at this. LR15.
I love the LR15 pronunciation because that is just literally wrong. It's an S at the end.
CP, look at this. Is this elite speak?
Oh man. Okay. What do we make though?
I think it's gonna be Iris from now on.
Skewed coming into this. What do we make of this? Is this just to shore up their gaps to ensure that they can play these double flex support comps?
Yeah, probably.
A bit of a backup for sure.
No idea.
You saw with San Francisco, they needed an extra flex support to play some of those comps. Even when Moth was on the team, right? They would take him out and put Twilight in. So this is probably just if they ever wanted to recreate the same type of lineups, they can.
Yeah, I think I have watched this guy play before, but I have always been looking at the other team because the other teams have always been the ones that have been winning. He has not been on teams that have done well in contenders at all in any of the recent seasons. So I have not been paying attention to his teams even slightly. Even when I've watched, like, I don't even watch that many contenders VODs now. And I definitely don't watch like bottom contenders VODs, which is where I think in the last season, his team literally plays dead last. So I think this must be a situation where they've tried to scout talent that is extremely underrated in Korea, where it's not based on results, it's purely based on trials. I feel like this must be the result of open trials, because otherwise, how do you find this guy?
Yeah, I'd love to know how they found and picked this guy up, because I mean, I just know that it's going to be Mitch's favorite pun player next year.
Skewed to come on. He was like, yeah, I had to compete in a triathlon system that they set up. And we're like, yeah, you know, I heard Skewed was competing in this athletic process that the Gladiators.
Yeah, he won Torbjorn golf for the Gladiators.
We just can't fucking trust anything that comes out of the Gladiators organization anymore.
That's true.
Just left guessing all the time.
It's true. Unless we get a written statement from DP that is 100% true.
Yeah,
I want to trust anything.
I want a fucking Shouldergate-esque written statement every time.
Who would have expected Bishu to troll us?
He's the friendliest guy. I can't believe it.
I can't believe he did a troll.
I would 100% believe every word Bishu wrote.
Well, I don't think he was trolling. I don't think he was trying to troll us, though. He was trying to troll Halo, right?
I mean, he was trolling fucking anyone. He was trolling fucking anyone. Also, the clip, if you guys can find it, just as you're watching, pause this video and go and take a look at the clip of DP's stream. He's doing an AMA stream talking about the Gladiators pickups, and he just goes on a tangent where he's actually crying, laughing about the idea of Bishu being the Korea whisperer, where he's just the link between Korea and us, and he's just abusing this reputation to just troll us all. I'm never listening to anything that Bishu says again.
There's a ghost in my house.
Yeah.
Printer just turned on, made a funny noise. Why would that turn on randomly?
Someone's connected to it via Bluetooth. Yeah, someone sent me the clip because, it's just
here. I'll put it in the live chat.
Are we able to play it with sound on the show?
Absolutely.
It's great.
I don't know. But yeah, I put it in the live chat.
What's the timestamp?
I put it at the timestamp.
No, you didn't.
No, I didn't. Oh,
no, you didn't.
We don't have to talk about this. We can talk about something else.
Shut up, Bren.
I've had so much espresso. What are we doing?
Is this a meme?
What is the timestamp?
It's 5:36.
Handsome, but like, is this a common thing people ask?
So that would be 5 minutes, Kurt, with 36 seconds.
Muse should be pronounced moose.
Oh, there you can see. I heard that Muse should be pronounced moose. What's the real deal?
They were like,
he's just like,
and they were
I don't know what the fuck happened with that, but like, he's like, clearly they're just getting trolled.
That's pretty funny. I don't think we should be encouraging this, though.
I think we should.
Because soon every team's going to be fucking with us.
Yeah, I think that's fucking hilarious. I think that we should have an award at the end of the year for the team that's trolled us the hardest. Yep. I think if we can, like,
I don't know if I want to go that far. I mean,
I think that would be amazing to see what the teams could come up with, to see what the most ridiculous thing they could put out into the world that was believable.
We'll report on anything.
Yeah,
we will literally report anything.
Bren's worried about reporting rumors about the Vancouver Titans players being signed, but we're perfectly fine to tell everyone his name's pronounced Moose.
Oh, bro. While we're on that topic, I gotta clear
Me
that
and
out.
Josh will say anything if it gets a
I
view.
saw some comments from people that didn't understand why I didn't want to talk about rumors. But the entire premise of us not talking about rumors is not because we fucking hate Halo. It's because on the off chance that one of these rumors is incorrect, or even if it is correct and the details aren't solidified, it can negatively affect some of these players' careers or some of the people being signed. If we start making comments on it and decisions are made off the back of that. Like it has the tendency of like I think I literally explained this in the previous episode. I don't even know.
I think you did.
You did.
Am I going crazy?
I think you did,
okay,
but
whatever.
people
I'm not
don't
going to talk about it
understand
anymore.
it. But
Yeah.
I think what people don't really understand is that people don't understand the way that people get picked up in the Overwatch League at all. There are so many potential players for the Overwatch League that you cannot go and ask them all what their current contract status is. And you can't ask them like which teams are interested in them. And you can't keep track. Like if you put all of the players up on a big like spreadsheet and you were trying to keep track of where they all are and what the rumors are of where they're going, and that you ring up a player and they're like, oh yeah, I'd like to sign for you, but only if Carpe is also joining. So you're like, all right, well, we have to try and get Carpe. And if the Carpe deal falls through, then this guy's deal falls through. There's so much that you would have to keep track of. Yeah, there's so many layers of it when you're a GM, especially as it gets close to the end of the season and close to the rosters having to be finalized, that you have to go based off what other people tell you. You can't go to the player themselves all the time and say, wait, are you definitely signing with Houston? If you've heard it from the Houston GM or from another GM of like, oh, that guy's signing with Houston, actually, there's no point even going and getting in touch with him, then GMs have to take that because they don't have the literal time in the day to go and always get it from the player's agent or the source itself. So occasionally, it doesn't happen all the time, but occasionally a rumor that is incorrect can be like detrimental to somebody, which doesn't have to happen very often. But I think it did happen in like the 2019 off season, actually, for a couple of the players.
I can't remember.
And there was that weird situation with like Myunbong as well, where Huck fucking somehow managed to pick him up because they like, I don't know, there was something weird with his agent or something. I can't remember what it was. Yeah. Some weird shit always happens in the off seasons. It's more crazy than people realize.
We're just trying to protect the players, you know?
Brennon's a nice guy. We're doing the right thing. Don't worry about it.
What are we talking about next, Brennan?
Stand1 joining the Boston Uprising. Are Boston trying to turn around their fucking lives? Who knows?
Yeah.
Are they?
The slow turn.
Have they deleted Facebook? Have they lawyered up? They going to the gym yet?
Yeah.
Are they finally going to stop being a bottom tier team? This is a good start.
I mean, Boston Uprising seem like they've got the turning circle of a cow. Like they are really going to take a long time to be able to turn around.
Turning circle of a cow. Maybe this is the time.
I think it's a positive move, but it is. I mean, is it enough? No fucking way. Is it even close to being enough? No, not even slightly.
No. Oh,
come on, it's not. Are you really trying to tell me that the one edition of Stand1 is good? The only reason that this is a good thing is because it indicates they're going to make more moves.
Okay, here's what. Okay, if they keep around Punk to play in the front line with Stand1, you get a decent front line going. Okay. And yes, you need to make more signings. But it's a good sign. It's a good sign. It gives some hope to the Uprising fans. There are actually a surprising amount of Uprising fans in the Overwatch League. Like, generally speaking, you know that there's like the big fan bases of like the Houston Outlaws, there's Dallas Fuel, LA has some big fan bases. There's so many sad, perpetually sad Boston Uprising fans on my timeline that I actually genuinely feel bad for them. And it's like, yeah, I'll feed you a small cookie, you know? In the off season, if you want to get excited about your team, yeah, I'll give you that opportunity. And by saying that Stand1 and Punk could be a decent frontline going into next year,
I think it's also pretty good because having spoke to Fusions, I know that he likes to play in an environment. Assuming that Fusions is still signed, have they announced that he's still signed?
Yeah, I think they re-signed it.
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. I know I've spoken to him about it, and he likes to play in a team where he is not the sole main tank. He likes competition within his team because it's only going to elevate both the players. It's only going to motivate both players to get better, you know? That kind of competition is what you want to kind of strive for, I think, within the team, as long as the players are up for it, obviously. And Stand1 coming in, obviously, I think can probably teach quite a lot to this team internally. based off of his time in Shanghai Dragons, which is a team with a lot of good structure. I think he can carry over some of those elements.
Yeah, I would hope so. But at the same time, Stand1 was on the bench for a large amount of the Shanghai games, and their style was not the same when he and Fearless played. Right. I think that Stand1 did a good job on that team, and I think that the team still looked good when he played for them. I don't think Stand1's a bad player or anything like that, but I don't know whether he was really a pivotal part of their system. So I'm not convinced. I don't know enough about Stand1 as a person to know whether he's really the kind of guy that's going to be able to bring only a single year. Because remember, this guy was a rookie with very little experience coming into this year. He's got 1 year's experience, of which quite a large portion of it was on the bench, and quite a large portion of the time that he was playing was purely on Orisa. I don't know whether he has that like veteran presence where he's going to be able to bring too much outside of the game to Boston. I think that's a bit of a stretch to say that.
I think
so go on, Matt.
I think as a Boston fan, or if you're looking at it from the outside, you're just excited that they're bringing in talent. I mean,
yep.
You're kind of setting the bar like pretty low, but like you're excited they're just adding people who can help. I think that's the way you have to look at it. Is like, you know, everybody else is adding like, you know, these big all-star like capable pieces, like, and your team's just kind of set around like, you know, you needed to do something. You need to add people. I think Stand1 is a quality main tank that can help. Do I think he changes the fortune of this franchise? Like, probably not, but I think he definitely helps them start to get in the right direction.
I mean, there was definitely like 2-3 months there at the end of this season where you looked at Boston Uprising and it was like a failed fantasy football team. And you were like, well, you know, it is what it is. We'll go again next year. We'll get some more pieces. We'll redraft. Maybe I'll give it a go.
Why do I relate to that so hard?
Yeah.
Well, I know why, because my team is fucking wank this year.
So, you know, you kind of like, you got like 3 rounds to go and you're like, yeah, well, you know, what can you do about it? You know, let's attach less emotions to this team we got going here. So,
except this year, it's like you drafted half of the exact same roster you had last year when you shit the bed, and you're like, but I had a solid foundation.
It's early season. It's early.
Yeah, I mean, maybe.
Don't worry about it. I will say,
you guys want to
understand one signing. Sorry?
What?
I'm just kidding. You reminded me of my fantasy. I have a chance of winning this week in fantasy football, but I need Beasley, who plays for the Buffalo Bills, to pull about 40 points. So I'm going to be...
I had a guy on my fantasy team this week. He was active, and he was active for the game, but just decided not to play.
He was ill. He was sick, Matt. I know more about your team.
This year has just been absolute chaos for fantasy football.
Yeah.
I have hated it. The players that I drafted, Ezekiel Elliott has never been the same, actually. He caught COVID, didn't he, earlier in the year?
No.
That's the guy you need for 40 points.
There he is.
Yeah, is that Beasley?
Yeah.
That's
Cole Beasley to get 40 points?
He needs to get me like 40 points. Actually, I'll settle for like 20, assuming the rest of the team
don't even watch the game. He ain't got
the absolute
that. I mean, there is no chance.
Yeah.
What are your expectations for Boston next season? I mean, what would
can I just say?
Go on.
None. I have none.
Can I just say on Stand1? I do look okay. It might not bring the veteran experience like you said earlier, Josh. That might be true because he's that inexperienced. But I do like the point that Bren brought up. Was it Bren or was it you, Josh? I don't care. It was a Brit who brought up that Fusions like to play on a team where we have 2 main tanks. Okay, we have 2 main tanks that you compete with each other. Because oftentimes when you play main tank and you're trying to figure out like the strategy or the tactic to deploy, it's like figuring out the puzzle, right? Like what play style am I going to play? What resources do I need? And what positioning am I going to take on this map to ultimately engage and be the front line of my team? And sometimes, I swear to God, you practice like 50 hours a week and you just get stuck. And you gotta think outside the box. And sometimes it's so difficult, depending on the person, it's so difficult to think outside the box when you put so much effort into doing one thing over and over again. And that is why it's so nice to have 2 main tanks. And so I think Stand1 here is actually like a perfect counterpart to Fusions. And they can aid each other with like different lines of thinking and different play styles, different approaches to the game, and then try to figure out those problems before they like even exist for the Boston Uprising in game, like in a match. You know, you can figure that out in practice, but just having two minds that are really good at main tank and then figuring out the problem. Because even coaches sometimes they can't figure out the problems for the players. Yeah, sometimes you can fix like the motivational, personal issues, how you practice, even how you eat or sleep or that kind of stuff. But for the most part, the players know the game best. And I think having two main tanks on this team will just help them figuring out some of these puzzles that main tank players face. So I think it's good overall. I think it's interesting, for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So my question was...
Oh, here we go. Go on then, Josh. What is your question?
What are the expectations for Boston? Like, what defines a good off-season for them? Is a good off-season one where they come in and they look to be at the top of the bottom 5 teams? Like, is that good? Because previously they would have been like bottom 1, bottom 2.
Yeah, I guess.
Is being like...
Sure, I mean, I think they should be punching for the... They should be punching for the mid-table.
Yeah.
You know?
There's no fucking chance, man.
That's it. I mean, yeah.
Mid-fucking-table is unbelievable. Like, mid-table is playoffs. There's no fucking chance, man. Like, come on, set your expectations differently.
I don't know what to tell you. Like, what? You want these players to be picked up and be like, oh, yeah, so we're aiming for 17th this year.
No,
the players are fucking aiming to win.
No, okay, the players are aiming to win, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, of course they are. Yeah, Color Hex really thinks they're going to win this year. Of course he does. Right, but what I'm saying is, for this organization and for the fans, what is a reasonable expectation for the offseason? Like, what kind of additions would we want them to make in order for this team to be reasonably competitive? And even if they were reasonably competitive, where do we expect them to land? Like, can they be as good as Atlanta? I feel like Atlanta is a measuring stick for mediocrity at the moment, right? Like, the teams that are trying to get super teams have locked down the top 5 spots. The teams that are trying to get reasonably good teams have already locked down. They're like Toronto, Florida, Houston. They're making big moves, but they're not quite super teams. Atlanta is underneath them with, like, I don't know, the Valiant or something as being your bog standard.
Okay,
I don't know whether Boston can make moves to get to Atlanta's level.
Here's my suggestion.
Yeah, I think they can.
The level?
I want Boston fans to tweet at us with what they would be happy with, okay? And don't get unrealistic. Don't tell us like, oh, we want to win a championship. Don't give me any of that, okay? For a Boston Uprising fan watching or listening to this show, tweet at us something that would make you happy as a Boston Uprising fan.
I really want to know.
Well,
just leave a comment.
Satisfied next year, please.
Leave a comment, leave a tweet, whatever you want to do. Yeah.
Yeah, I would
at.
genuinely love to know. I'm not trying to rag on Boston here. I just feel like for teams like Boston and teams like Vancouver, for example, as well, what defines a good season for them?
Yeah.
Because the chance of making playoffs is almost impossible. It is so remote with the level of competition for next year. I don't really believe it's that feasible unless you make huge additions, and then you're almost like benching the players that you kept from last year anyway. So what's even the point? You might as well have just restarted. So I'm struggling in my head to find a good measuring stick. I feel like competing with Atlanta is a good measuring stick.
I don't even know if they'll be able to do that though.
Yeah, no, for real. I think that's reasonable. Like, I don't know. What do you do? What do you do with these teams? You know, what do you do with them? Picking up these players, saying, "What, you aiming to win? Really?"
Well, exactly. But that's the other thing as well, is these players aren't really. I don't truly believe. Maybe that's because I've never been a better level competitor. Well, yeah, actually, I do think that Laurie's a good coach as well, but I think the raw clay that they're working with isn't quite there, you know, to be able to do something like make playoffs. I think that's a great aim to go for sure. But if that's how you're judging success in the season, then you're setting yourself up to fail, aren't you?
Yeah.
So I think for
what if the goal is to just be more competitive than they were last season? Let Laurie see what some of these players can do, and then hopefully play better, but then maybe retool next year.
Yes, I think that's reasonable.
That's realistic.
I think that is what I would be pretty happy with for Boston next year. Like I would consider the season to be a success if they were able to not be a bad team.
Yes.
Diem.
Yep.
He's been
back to Shanghai. Yep.
I wasn't going to offer any help there. I wondered how long the pause was going to last.
He's been re-signed, hasn't he?
Yep.
What a weird move.
Yeah, I mean it's an odd move. I wonder what his market was like, just in terms of did he explore free agency? How much did he want to return to the Dragons because it made the most sense, like career-wise, almost like playing for the Shock again? I do wonder. This is a great obvious addition to Shanghai, bringing him back. I do wonder how they fit everybody in now, though, because you have Diem, Urser, Falletta, and Lip, right? So it's like,
yeah, it's kind of weird, honestly.
Does Diem fit into the same role that he was before, and that's it?
But I think it fits into the same point I made about the Shock's DPS lineup being like very flexible and fluid in terms of who you can run. This year, I think, proved that you do need backups in a multitude of roles. For one reason or another, even if you have overlapping hero pools, you still want to have backups just in case. You know, motivation issues kick in. We don't know what next year is going to be looking like. I mean, it could be very similar to this year. You know, God forbid, but it could be. So you kind of want to have. I don't know. Maybe the thing is, Diem is very talented, isn't he? He's a very talented individual. Yeah, we know he can compete at the highest level when it comes to hit scan. But yeah, it's. I think it may be a similar situation to what Shock have done, where they've picked up, you know, a lot of DPS players.
The only reason it's weird to me is that Diem was clearly, so he came to I just checked his contract status. He came to the end of his existing contract this year with the Shanghai Dragons. And so clearly he was exploring free agency. What's weird to me is that he went back to Shanghai, because I don't know I would love to know whether it was Diem's choice or whether people just didn't offer him other positions in other teams.
Yeah.
That is a really interesting
case
thing.
That he was scouting the market and no one really wanted to pick him up, and so he just kind of re-signed with a pretty cheap deal or so. That's a pretty. It's not evil, but it's like a pretty bad assumption to make. You don't want to make that assumption and put that on a player. But I could see that having been the case.
Well, I think if you make that assumption, I'm just kind of confused why we didn't see more teams interested in Diem.
Exactly. That's what I'm wondering as well. But if other teams were interested in Diem, isn't it weird that he re-signed with Shanghai anyway? Because it's almost like if you're exploring free agency, you're doing it to try and see whether there are better offers elsewhere. And if you got the offers, presumably you would go elsewhere.
Here's my opinion. I think I've said this before on the show. I'll say it again. Listen, I'm not scared. I'll say it again. I think hit scan is one of those roles where, as time has gone on, as teams have got better, it's a role where the impact one better hit scan player gets over the other is not necessarily their mechanical individual abilities, but it comes from the team play and their team creating openings for them. And I think the kind of star power that you get from these hit scan players, it's not 2018. We're not in that era of the game anymore, where Pine's going on flanks, where Carpe's clutching in the overtime situations. There's more important elements at play. And so Diem might have been under the impression, he's like, fuck yeah, I'm one of the best hit scans in the world. I'll shop around. I'll see if I get any better offers. Probably didn't get any better offers. Or maybe if he did, they didn't look as you know, as good. Or at least maybe the whatever he was getting offered wasn't worth going into a potentially worse roster, considering Shanghai Dragons are setting themselves up to look like a pretty good team again next year.
Yeah.
And also, I think that he has a pretty good role on this team. Like, you know, who is he competing with? Lip?
Yeah,
for Lip. And so I still think Diem fills a very niche spot on this roster. You know, we can bring out the Widowmaker and just pop some heads. You know, we can do that. He's fantastic at that. Yeah. I definitely think there is a meta in which Diem is the primary Widowmaker hit scan player for this team. I do think that is the case. And I think that Diem is overall loved by the organization. The fans love him as well. And so, like, you know, I think it benefits both parties here.
I think to Bren's point as well, I had an interview where we talked about Pine recently. And I don't know if it's necessarily been like the falling out of like the hit scan specialist. I just think your hit scan specialists that we see in the league now and coming up from contenders can play at the level of a hit scan specialist, but also play other things at a high level. I think once you bring in that type of versatility, it makes a player like a Pine pretty difficult to field on a team or have a roster spot for, because you can get a player who is very, very talented on the hit scan roles, but can also do a lot of other different things, right?
Like
so I think, like Lip. So I think it makes it difficult to kind of have players who can only kind of play like a few different heroes on a roster for a whole season, especially, when you're never sure if they're actually going to be played or not.
Yeah. He has a very niche spot on this roster, but it's an insane DPS line that they now have. Fleder, Lip, Erster, and Diem. I mean, that is ridiculous. You have your hardcore hit scan specialist in Diem. You have your flashy carry projectile player in Erster. You have your all-round team player in Fleta, who's always going to be in the right place at the right time. And then you have Lip, who's able to play basically everything for you, and is a Sombra specialist, and like McCree and Hanzo is out of this world. It's an unbelievable DPS core.
Oh, I was just looking up Ezekiel Elliott. Titans. That's a team. They've made some changes. The rumors.
Did you see the beginning of this video?
James, what did you say?
The beginning of the announcement video of these three players.
Vancouver?
Oh, it said, sorry, Plat Chat. Yeah.
Did you not see the beginning? The beginning of the video says it literally says in text, "We waited till Plat Chat ended to release this video."
Oh my god.
Trolling us. They're trolling us.
Oh, yeah, it's real funny, real funny. It's only going to hurt you in the long run.
See what happens.
See what happens. We'll buy your team out. Then what?
We won't do that. Because we don't have that, then we don't have the revenue to do that. We will not do
capital.
That. Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
T-Mobile is very generous with their sponsorship, but it is not multiple tens and hundreds of thousands.
So the Titans
for your players.
The Titans have added Pride, Fire, Linkzr. So some interesting long-time players. Let's be real here. Being added to the roster. These kind of moves don't seem like money-making moves. You know what I mean?
But these moves from Vancouver are high risk, high reward. We've seen some of these players have really good moments in the league. We've seen them have some not great moments in the league. But
they're at the roulette table right now. They got 100 on red.
With Vancouver is you're rolling the dice, right? You have some players though that fans really like, and you try and see what happens. You give them a full year of being able to play. I don't hate it. I don't love it. I don't think it pushes the needle of this team like one way or the other. I think they're just kind of where they are. But I think, they get probably a little bit more likable by the overall Overwatch League fan base. And maybe they hit on some of these players and they really kind of show what they're capable of more consistently.
Yeah, they definitely become more likable. It's a good marketing move to pick up somebody like Linkzr, for sure. And to a lesser extent, Fire, and to a lesser extent than that, I would say FRD, because I don't think Fire and FRD built their brands up to the same level that somebody like Linkzr has when he's been in the scene just forever. You're right, though, about it not moving the needle. I mean, they are just in the exact same places they were before. Like, I don't think that there is an upgrade across either of these three players compared to the players that they left.
Right,
I mean, maybe you could say Linkzr, but the others.
But this is the route you would go if you cannot like substantially upgrade the roster, right? Make the roster a little bit more likable to the overall community.
I would be going
flyers on players that may bounce back.
The thing is, though, I would say there's a much higher upside on rookie talent than there is on. Yeah, but the thing is, these three are more veteran presences. So what you're hoping for here is the classic, a couple of veterans, couple of rookies, and see whether they are able to actually, to gel, and that the veterans can help the rookies develop. Like your DPS line is Linkzr, who's been around for 1,000 years, and Dalton, who's brand new. Your tank line is Shredlock, who's pretty new and doesn't have that much experience with FRD, who, to be honest, is fairly young himself, honestly, when it comes to the Overwatch League. But then you have Rolf and Fire in the backline who are veteran presences. Yeah. I just don't see the upside here. There isn't a ceiling for this team particularly, apart from Linkzr and Dalton, maybe a bit. I come back to the same thing as Boston. What is a good season for this?
Well, I could almost see this team being like Toronto last year, where they were good enough to like take maps and make points close against good teams, but they never really beat them. Like they're good enough to take a map to the end, but not necessarily win, right? Like you kind of know they're not going to win it, but they're good enough to like hang in the game, so to speak.
Yeah.
Where I think like you look at Boston, right, and they just got rolled by some teams. Where Toronto last year, like even when they would lose like a series in like a 3-0 fashion, the games were always relatively close. I kind of think that's where this team ends up, where it's like, yeah, we play teams tough, we play them close, but we're not getting like huge wins.
Yeah,
I don't think many wins at all.
Right. Yeah. Go ahead, Johnny.
Yeah, I think the Vancouver Titans are pretty happy for the first half of the next season if they just build a good foundation. Because I think that is sort of what Fire, FRD, Linkzr, and Rolf can sort of like provide in the system. They provide like a good shot calling foundation, a structure within the team, and then you can perhaps add some nice individual talented players around them to plug into the system. But I really think they need to establish a good foundation first, because last year it was a clusterfuck, let's be honest. Like it was just contenders talent from all over the place, and they tried to do a bit of second wind, right? And then add some European players on top of that and just try to get something going. I am actually quite confident in Fire being able to provide some good main support play here and some shot calling. I think that the case was just that like Masa was already pretty good and part of the system on the Atlanta Reign. But now we have Fire that can get his own team here and get something going. I think that Rolf, he's not necessarily like a bad player on this team. I think they have a pretty stable support lineup. I would have preferred to have like maybe 2, 3, maybe even 4 young, talented players on this roster that they can now plug in around this foundation that they're trying to build on this team. Because I think they can establish an identity going into next year and a structure, like a name for themselves, like, hey, this is a new Vancouver Titans. Oh. But as Josh said, like you're missing the young, talented potential that you can unlock within the next season or two to really make it exciting.
And I'd say you also, so like the best kind of, I guess the best way that you can kind of attract talent is, having the talent you have, like kind of rep your team and kind of say they've been treated well and whatnot. It's like a little bit of a reset for the Titans organization, right? Where things didn't go great last year. I know they turn it around, even if they don't win, right? Like if these players have a great time playing for the Vancouver Titans, that has a way of getting around, right? Where the Linkzrs of the world, like pretty popular with other players, hey, I'm having like the Vancouver's treated us great. Like I love playing for them. Like everything's going good. Like that affects players' decisions, right? So you hope that some of these players can be good ambassadors for the team as they move on.
Look at that elo graph. Oof.
It's up and then it's down.
It's not even up. It just starts at a normal. It did start up, didn't it? But here's the.
It can almost always only go up.
Yeah, I don't think so though. I think that's going even further and further and further down, to be honest.
Oh, I mean, come on.
There's 2 big issues here for me when I look at Vancouver. I'm not gonna bullshit around. Vancouver last year were sustained by good public sentiment because people knew that they were in a horrible situation. They knew that the players had been put in a position to fail, so they rooted for them to succeed. After this offseason, there is no mitigating circumstance. You have had the opportunity to rebuild the roster, and you no longer have the excuse of, it's a bunch of rookie players who have come in to try and last minute replace a god tier roster. Don't worry about them. Give them time. They're playing on high ping. There were just a wealth of excuses, all very reasonable and all very relevant last year. Next year, there's none of that. It is just going to be, they are now a team at the bottom of the tables, and they're going to get the same like fucking Boston and Washington Justice of old treatment, where they are just mocked for being a bad team. That is literally just going to be it. They have lost their public sentiment appeal. Plus, on the top of that, do you guys think that this team or Boston has a better roster coming into next year?
Maybe Boston.
Boston. I would have
Boston.
more faith
I
in
think it's
Boston.
Boston.
Yeah.
You don't think?
Yes. No.
I would have more
okay,
faith
there
in
are
Boston.
a few players that
They're about equal.
I'm not psyched about
not
on
gonna-
the Vancouver Titans roster, but I do think that they have some decent players on there.
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
not-
they
I'm not gonna
currently
be-
have. I don't think it's a stretch to say they currently have the weakest on paper roster in the league.
Yeah, I'm not going to beat around the bush and say
we
that
don't
I
know who
think
New York
they,
have, but they
paper,
do.
yeah.
they got rid of some of their best players last year, even if the rookie time
Boston?
that came in.
Has Colin Hexen, I'm 37.
Okay.
I think people are, even though New York hasn't announced anything, I think people, though, from like what the talk and the rumors are, is that people are actually pretty excited about the team
Oh, really?
in terms of
Wait,
like,
who?
going younger.
New York. We
Oh,
have
they
no idea
potentially
who's
look
on
like,
New
yeah.
York, though. That's why I'm saying, like, New York still have the chance to create a poor roster. Who knows? Paris still have the chance to create a poor roster. Who knows? London might create a poor roster. Who knows? But in terms of ones that we know of at the moment, this is set up to fail next year. It's set up to fail.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Some of the best pieces that were just kind of, dragging them along, I think, are not even with this team anymore. Well, even if the rookie piece.
Shockwave and KSA.
Yeah. I mean, KSA, I thought was, the fact that he's playing on 200 ping, pretty good.
Yeah.
Especially on.
But I think
playing
they
Sigma
probably
the majority
couldn't
of
get
the
him
season.
to play on lower ping for next year.
Right,
Yeah.
Which
so
was
they were
probably
just
part
like,
of the
okay,
reason they
we'll
had to
pick
let
him
him
up.
go.
But I mean, yeah, I think this team, the prospects that they're looking at, I mean, they don't look too hot, unfortunately. Moving on. BenBest.
Not every team can be good.
True.
True, but they should be aiming to. We'll leave it at that. Thanks for watching Plat Chat, everybody. BenBest has tweeted that he is not going to be an owl, at least immediately within the foreseeable future. Presumably, the trialing process didn't go as planned. Presumably, Paris didn't want to re-sign him. This is one of the biggest surprises, I think, because he definitely proved himself as a very capable tank player last year. In fact, more than capable, playing on the Paris roster. He's got a huge fan base in France. A really marketable player, honestly, like from top to bottom.
Yeah.
But this is one of those things where I see this, and I can't help but feel like, you know how we wait in the off-season, and a couple of weeks pass in the Overwatch League? And then suddenly you start to see some player moves being made, almost immediately. You start to see new players coming
Signing
in.
here, signing there. Yeah.
I have BenBest strikes me as a player that I think should be in the league next year. And I think at some point he will be. At least I hope so. Because it just makes sense. Like, if you were to get a player in, right, that you wanted to lead your team. Like, imagine him playing for the Vancouver Titans. You've got a veteran presence, somebody who can bring the structure of the Paris Eternal in. You bring the fan base over. I mean, it just checks so many boxes for you.
I would feel so much more confident about Vancouver if they had BenBest on the roster.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
You look at some of the other players that are still out there, right? I mean, Meko is still available. JJANGGU, who we thought potentially would just go back to Washington, he's still available.
Yeah. Now, of course, there is a price attached to all of this as well. We don't know how much BenBest is willing to sign for. We don't know whether BenBest is willing to play for a team like Vancouver, for example. So there's a lot of factors that also go into that are pretty unknowable. But at the same time, it is just a travesty that in my opinion, the most improved player of 2020 might not be in the league the year after. Like, how is that the case when his career is on an upwards trajectory? How are people then more comfortable putting stock in trial performances on a couple of patches and bets on rookie talent rather than someone proven like that? It's weird. The Overwatch League puts so much stock in open trials and
rookie talent.
And it has worked. It is a proven thing that has worked year after year. But at some point, you got to say, these guys have performed in matches. Like, BenBest has performed in matches. You've seen what this guy can do.
Yeah.
You're not taking a risk. He's got a lot of experience. You know what he's good at, and you know what he's bad at as well, which is another great point, because you know what he's bad at and therefore what you need to plan for, like, in terms of your roster. I don't know. I feel like people are missing a trick here.
Heck, I would even say that BenBest is like marketable. Like I think genuinely, I think genuinely, like there are a lot of fans of BenBest who like seeing him play, and I mean throughout his seasons now with Paris, like he's a strong Reinhardt player.
The guy could be a fucking model. Have you seen him?
Yeah.
Kurt, pull up his phone.
People would cheer for him.
Please.
Well, Well, I'm not worried about him whatsoever.
Bro,
because
look at this dude.
Oh my
He'll be a model. Yeah, he'll be a model.
Well, as soon as he doesn't sign for Owl, he's becoming a model. So it doesn't make any difference anyway, does he? It actually might be a good thing if he doesn't get signed, because then he can sign with I don't know, Hugo Boss instead.
Yeah, I think
Hugo Boss.
I think teams. You kind of mentioned like we have seen rookie talent come in and succeed at like a high clip, right?
Yeah.
Where I think I also think with more coaches and people from contenders coming into Owl, that also is shaping what Owl looks like, right? In terms of a lot of these people work in contenders every single day. They see all the players in there. They also kind of understand where the talent level is at Owl, and they probably feel that there's other options that are more well-rounded. I also think in the same way that in like professional sports, I think the one you kind of sticks as like football, right? Like the head coach and the quarterback are like typically tied, right? In terms of like what the system is and what they like to play. Like in a lot of in Overwatch League, from what we see, like the head coach and the team are kind of tied together in terms of the players as well. So like when a new head coach comes in, they want to bring in a lot of the players that they like, as opposed to keep some of these players around. But I think there should be something.
Volumel calls it the little duckling strategy, or the mother duck strategy, or something, which I think is a great name for it.
But there has to be something that like the success he's had in Overwatch League has to matter for something. That's where you kind of lose me a little bit on the theory. Like, great, you want to bring in your little ducklings, right? Like, okay, like, but what's wrong with bringing in
what's wrong with Papa Goose?
What's wrong with a goose? Yeah, what's wrong with having a goose on the side? You know, there's nothing wrong with a little bit of goose.
Yeah.
So I mean, you hope players like BenBest and JJANGGU and Meko find homes in the Overwatch League, because we know they're Overwatch League caliber players. I think, though, if teams want to keep rosters short and go with younger talent, I think, unfortunately, this will happen.
Yeah. And this is one of the reasons as well that people want to sign to the Shock, to revitalize their careers that might otherwise get passed over for rookie talent. It's just, BenBest is a particularly amazing example because he literally did get success.
Yeah. Like this year was probably his best year, right?
Oh yeah.
Do you know what's more exciting than this though?
Okay, Bren?
What?
What?
What? Everyone just spoke at the same time. Reinhardt.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very exciting. Big changes potentially on the horizon.
you're talking
Experimental
about
patch
BenBest.
notes.
Oh, I thought we were talking about BenBest too. Wait, can I just ask one final question, Bren, before we move on here?
Yep.
What? I'm just perplexed, and I guess I'll get my answer soon enough. Why wouldn't just Paris re-sign him?
Oh,
I see. Right, because they're making a brand new.
I was gonna look through teams in the Overwatch League that BenBest could play for, and there's actually not like a ton of teams because I mean the league is so damn stacked now. Vancouver Tennis is a prime example, but like why? Paris, why wouldn't you re-sign BenBest?
I mean, Paris makes most sense.
We'll see what happens. I mean, I trust the process. Trust the process.
It can only be money, can't it?
yeah. It can literally only be money.
What could possibly be the other reason?
Unless you were looking at a already formed tank line to bring in, like if you liked a tank duo from contenders and you want to bring both of them in, maybe that is a reason why you wouldn't want to break it up. People already have synergy and whatnot, but yeah.
What about London
you still
as
would
well?
want him you still would want him on the roster, right?
True. Yeah,
Yes.
like why not? If he can't get into the league, give him a minimum. Is money the problem? Give him a league minimum.
Just as a personality, but he probably wouldn't want to do that though. Just sit on the bench for the minimum.
Given the
probably would
moves
go
as
play in
well.
contenders.
Okay, but then you cannot tweet. If that is the case, you cannot tweet like, "Oh, it doesn't look like I'm getting into the league this year." It's like, okay, well, if you had offer and you declined them, that's on you. Don't try and make it look like the other
No,
team.
not necessarily. Like if you get a 50k offer and it's like it's 50k, but you have to walk 3 miles up a hill, and we're going to house you 17 miles away, and we'll provide you with a bicycle, and you know, like, or like if you just get a shitey offer that's almost insulting for your level of performance of what you've put up, I think it's reasonable to.
You heard it here first. Paris offering bicycles.
Bro, he's also playing the game that gets played on social media. Where he's like, he's driving the fans.
Johnny, if Johnny was a
the
GM,
orcs.
he would just read a few sad tweets and just start giving everybody the minimum. He'd turn around, he'd have like 80 fucking players.
No,
on the
because
minimum
it's
contract.
no. Am I wrong here? Sad tweets is not the way to go. Surely it's like, oh yeah, I'm getting so many fat offers
sad
from all
tweets
these
is
teams.
definitely a way to go.
Then you have like Vancouver Titans. Like, I wonder if we can like sneak in and get BenBest here. Like, so many teams are offering him contracts. Like, surely that means something.
You just give up over there because you're like,
sure. If you're Titans, maybe
we can't outbid them.
Maybe Shock will come in like, let's look to get BenBest.
Can I talk about the experimental patch notes?
Yeah, let's talk about the patch notes.
Reinhardt.
Yeah, big old Reinhardt changes, a Batiste nerf, everything. This patch has got everything. This is the second coming of Overwatch.
Not quite.
This is Overwatch 2.
But
I love how they're making just constant changes. Not kind of sitting around. Something they said they were going to do. I'm really happy to see it. Immortality field gets a little bit of a nerf.
Great changes to Batiste.
Big changes.
Really good changes.
Necessary changes
but
to Batiste.
why is it still like a car wash?
I mean,
What? Oh, how wide it is.
Size of it.
Like a cinema screen.
Yeah.
It is pretty big.
It is weird, isn't it?
yeah. Diva, she becomes a little bit more tankier. She did feel like she was getting blown up pretty quick.
But the armor adjustments, this is pretty big. I feel like there's been, I don't know. Does it feel like there's just been a general power creep in the game, and Diva just hasn't really kept up with a raw defensive utility?
I don't.
Weren't we in meta?
I think with how
Diva, which is annoying. She was so
how they
healthy.
changed other
Diva
characters.
is so close to being meta at all times, and it's just because Sigma is so outrageously versatile and powerful that they're buffing everything else to get up to the level of Sigma instead of just ripping him to pieces. Just take him down a notch, please, and then you won't have to buff all of these other tanks.
Oh, it's nice to see Reinhardt get some love though.
I like this.
Oh yeah.
Oh. The Overwatch streams are returning tomorrow. I am going to play Reinhardt. Overwatch League players are going to bitch and cry because I'm one-tricking this simple man in the ranked experience. But
Well, he's on the experimental patch,
I'm bringing
right?
it back. Huh?
Yeah,
It's only the experimental.
Jeff Kaplan, I demand you to make this live tomorrow. I demand you to change this into the live patch tomorrow. Otherwise, no, I'm not going to say anything.
Well, I mean, a lot of these do go live, so you got a shot.
I swear to God, if they say that the experimental card goes live, except for the Reinhardt changes, I will.
That'd be pretty funny.
He'll come round to Jeff's
things-
house with a Reinhardt hammer.
This
With the
does seem like,
plastic one, yeah.
this seems like one of those patches where everything will go through. You know, there's no wacky stuff. There's no experimental stuff. It's like minor tweaks, minor changes that they can test without pushing it to like the PTR.
Have you tried it? Have you played it?
No.
No, I haven't. But some people were upset.
Like that. Seems to me like the Reinhardt change might not be minor. I don't know about you, but
some people were bitching that you could like, because you can cheat with the animation, right? So you can like charge up the hammer and then
Swing your mouse.
in the process of swinging it, you change your camera to the left as well. And then you can start swinging from the left. So you get like hit from the right, and then you can time it with a hit from the left at the same time. So it's almost like a double hit, which means that you deal like extreme amounts of damage like very rapidly. Instead of it's like doom, it's like doom, and you just do massive amounts of damage now. So you can cheat the animation a little bit if you're smart and good at the game. So that's
I do that
extreme amount of burst
accidentally
damage, but-
sometimes. I can never do it
Which means you're
purposefully,
good at the game.
but I can do it accidentally. Every now and then I'll get the double dink and I'll be like, ooh, okay.
Oh, what I did.
Yeah. All right. Time for the final segment, and it's one that I put a lot of prep and thought into. Yeah, it's time for Bren's Player of the Week, presented by T-Mobile. Kurt, please.
T-Mobile.
Roll the tape.
Hello, everybody. Good day. My name is Tony Maloney, and here I'm eating a
That
donut
hairpiece.
from the finest bakeries in Brooklyn, New York. You might be wondering why I'm here today talking to some of you. It's Bren's Player of the Week, presented by T-Mobile.
You say that hairpiece.
Yeah, you had like one piece of hair, just
Does
like.
look like yeah. It does also look like
I
I'm
thought
wearing
you did like a little like a bun in the back, but it was just one like piece of hair just stuck
a
up.
little toupee
That's a
action.
lovely guest appearance from Tony Baloney.
Tony
Yeah.
Baloney coming through. I mean, I called him up and he said, "Yeah, I can record I can record you something." Okay,
That's
absolutely.
great.
Yeah, we go way
He
back.
wouldn't have said it like that though, would he? How did he actually say it?
Yo, we go way back. All right then. I forgot how to do the Tony.
Yogi Bear had a stroke.
Yeah.
I forgot how to do the voice. Anyway, I'll be honest with you. Every week this comes up, this award, and I've been so busy recently that I'm just gonna, on a whim, hand this out. Now, who do you think deserves it today? Do you think it should be the Chesapeake Bay Candle Company for their good candles that they've produced?
No,
No.
it shouldn't.
You don't think so?
No, absolutely not. Not until they give us money. We're not
Do you
promoting
think
them
it
on
should
Bren's
be-
Player of the Week presented by T-Mobile.
Do you think it should be Beasley, one of the players for the Buffalo Bills?
No.
You're hoping he's Bren's
I'm
Player of the
hoping
Week.
he's going to be my player of the
he's
week
like
next
the
week.
third receiver on that team.
Who is the player of the week?
Hey, can I just say before we get the official one, one of my player of the week is actually T-Mobile themselves. Because they gave me a
You got your
phone.
phone in.
So I got a phone from T-Mobile. Thank you.
Wow.
That's
pretty
extremely nice of you. So I got a Google Pixel 5 ready to go with the newest launch of the Google Pixel. Thank you so much, T-Mobile.
Very swanky.
Yo,
Hashtag
T-Mobile, Bren's player of the
Well, I
week.
figured-
T-Mobile partner.
I figured I'd give this award to somebody who honestly has been complaining a lot recently. They've been
fucking
bitching,
hell.
they've been moaning about not receiving this goddamn award. So it's about
it Matt?
time that it should go to Sideshow Gaming for his contributions to the Overwatch scene and also predicting Glister to the San Francisco Shock.
Contributions to the Overwatch scene. What has he done?
I've done a lot. All right, Matthew, I've done a lot.
He stops by in between Valorant VODs. He makes a random guess, and then he's the player of the week. What is this?
Yeah, you know, he's
this wasn't a random guess. This was a San Francisco Shock approved 200 IQ prediction.
yeah.
What about Johnny's mustache?
Jesus.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna
No.
go. I'm gonna be like Monty and name it something. I'm gonna give the mustache a name.
What did Monty call his mustache?
I can't remember.
Because I made
Really?
a Twitter account called Philip the Mustache, and I took a picture of Monty with a mustache, just in case it became a thing.
That's a challenge for the viewers. Put in the Reddit thread on competitive Overwatch, whatever. Put in the name for the mustache. Okay.
Johnny
We're doing a
2.
brainstorm.
I'll be honest with you guys. When we've been hunting for engagements
Johnny
from our
Jr..
fan base, we have gone to every different platform imaginable. I've said type a comment in the YouTube things. I think at some point you guys have asked for them to tweet at us, and now Johnny's asking for them to be on Reddit.
Actually, do it on YouTube. Do it on YouTube for the
I think
analytics.
it genuinely is. Here's what we'll actually do though. If the best name for Jonathan's mustache will get pinned as the YouTube comment for this video,
Yeah,
and then
that's a good one.
when future people are watching this, don't add any context to the name, by the way, just the name. And then when people come on, they'll see a pinned comment that says something like Jeremy Slopodopoulos, and they'll just be like, "What the hell is that about?"
Well, that's just the one
Luchador
from
hat.
Ellen.
Luchador Hat 78.
Robert
That's,
Paulson.
that's the name of the antagonist
His name
in.
was Robert Paulson. That's what you should call it, and then shave it off and hold a little ceremony.
Crusher 98.
Oh God!
So is Josh the player of the week or Johnny's mustache?
No, Josh is the player of the week.
It's
Josh is the player of the week. I'm
Josh.
tempted.
Okay,
to,
fine.
I'm tempted.
I'll concede this one to Josh.
I was tempted to pull
Concede,
up.
you weren't in the running.
I was tempted to pull up the candles because Kurt, can you pull up the thing I linked in the Overwatch channel by any chance, the image? Because I'm recording a video in advance and it's going to be coming out
all
soon.
you
where
do is plug your own YouTube channel
yeah,
here.
I'm reviewing.
That's all you do. What is this?
I'm reviewing a 8 candles at once.
Trying to summon a cat girl. That looks like a summoning ritual for a cat girl.
Oh, it does look like he's trying to summon something. It's like in WoW, you can summon a Doom Guard with a ritual of doom. This is kind of like, it's some weird ritual.
Yeah. It looks like you've had to slice the body of an e-boy in half and put it in between a circle of candles. And it summons their counterpart.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Oh, fucking hell.
Anyway, all right.
Josh, what do you have to say that you've won?
Well, congratulations. That's all what people say when they win. I'm just used to winning, I guess. Congratulations to me.
I was great.
Really well, I think in honor of me winning, the rest of you should try and predict correctly who gets it this week. Sorry, not who gets player of the week. I should be more specific. Which team and player is going to announce a signing that stuffs us over at the end of this episode?
At the end of this episode?
Yeah, or not at the end of the episode, but what is going to come out? What announcement is going to come out right after Plat Chat? Like at some point, Tuesday afternoon, evening, Wednesday morning. Like, what is the brand next announcement?
I think we're right on the corner of like Valiant and Mayhem stuff.
I think Atlanta have to do something. Atlanta have to announce something, right?
What do you mean? Didn't they just announce a DPS player like we covered it 2 weeks ago?
Did they? I mean, I can't remember.
Feather, I think we said he was going to New York.
No,
I think it was
the rumor is he's going to New York.
Yeah, was it
Atlanta. Oh, wait a second.
Is his name Falcon? No,
it was Pelican. It was Pelican.
Pelican. Yeah, I knew it was a bird. I knew it was a bird. It was a falcon or a bird. Those are the two I had. I knew it was a bird. I knew he was a bird.
Feather and Pelican. That's so funny. I actually forgot that Pelican was on this team.
Yeah. Oh, it's ridiculous.
I think we talked about it 2 weeks ago.
I've been thinking about them without Pelican.
Yeah.
God, I really don't believe that the bottom level teams can catch up to Atlanta, though.
No,
we were saying, like the measuring stick, like
it with I mean, with just like him and Edison, I think they're good enough to just try to roll over some team.
I mean, don't take anything for granted. I mean, it's the Atlanta reign at this point. Like, we'll have to see. I think they'll continue along there. I think Boston Uprising is going to announce something. They've announced Stand1 now. I think, they got the ball rolling. Huck got some things up his sleeve. They're starting to announce stuff because he's confident about their plan and like things are coming together. I think we'll see more Boston Uprising signings.
Listen, guys, I'd love to keep this episode going, but I've got a game to watch and videos to edit, and I got to pack my bags because I'm getting on a flight tomorrow.
But you didn't let us. You didn't let us. Yes, I'm going to say Boston adds an off tank. Either JJANGGU, Mecco, or McGravy. They're gonna add somebody.
Okay.
All right.
Overwatch contenders. Let's go
Josh,
with Milky Man. I think Boston Uprising is gonna add Milky Man. There you go.
Josh, you said something?
No, wait, he's a main tank. Shit. Oh, well.
I was gonna. Well, Bren, what are you making in your guess? I've already won this week. I can't believe
I don't really like guessing.
Okay, well that's fantastic.
Good.
Awesome. Yeah, way to contribute there, Bren. Nice to have you on this week's episode. Yeah.
Aspen to Toronto Defiant.
What?
Who?
Aspen to Toronto Defiant.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
Okay.
On the main roster.
Sure.
Okay.
That'd be dope. I think she's I think that was like on Reddit. I saw that. I think she followed a bunch of people from Toronto.
It was like a rumor.
I made this signing myself.
Yeah, no, Johnny definitely just got that from Reddit.
Yeah.
He definitely went to Reddit, hit new,
that was on Reddit?
Was definitely at the top.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, listen, guys. I love to chat. I'd love to stay and chat and do my job, but I gotta go. So we got to end this episode, I guess.
Well, I mean,
you have to make a prediction, or we're not leaving.
I have to make a prediction. Okay.
Yeah, you're the one who's. Who are you summoning in this picture?
I am summoning Bill Dipley.
What?
No.
What is that?
I can't believe that. I cannot believe that.
You are just a moron.
Am I not? Do I not know what that is?
Let me think. Everybody shut up.
Was that supposed to be funny?
Let me think.
Yeah. That was
okay.
Bren's Zoomer humor.
Let me think.
I didn't get it because I'm a boomer.
Let me think.
We've
What
given you
team?
about
Say a Korean name and New York Excelsior. That's all you
I'm trying
have
to
to
think. I'm trying to think of the gaps in
literally
teams. The
could've-
gaps in teams. I'm trying to
Kurt
think.
could have come up with a name in some team already, and he doesn't even follow that much Overwatch. He just produces the show and finds everything. Waving your lighter around isn't going to help your mental.
Don't know. Can't think of any.
Jesus Christ. I mean, you could have literally just stolen one of Halo's reports and banked on like an 80% chance of it being correct.
To New York. You could have said, yeah, I mean, there's a lot.
You could have said,
okay, how about this?
How
about this?
Yeah.
How about this? I gotta search it up. Give me a second.
This is the worst ending of an episode ever.
Give me a second. Give me a second. Give me a second. Give me a second.
Just anyone. Just say a player.
Yeah, like just pick a name and a player and a team.
Give me a second.
Libero.
Libero.
Well, we're giving Brennan. Should I
Libero.
pick up Mitchell Trubisky for my fantasy
Libero
team this
to
week?
where?
Libero.
Oh, there we go.
To what team?
Florida.
Okay, well.
Okay,
all
weird,
right,
but all right.
I guess that means the end of the episode. Well, we'll see you next time.
Thank you everybody for watching. Good night.